Hello friends, in this video we are discussing about aerial photography. Now what is aerial photography? As name says, it is a branch of surveying in which maps are prepared from photographs which are taken from ground or air station. Photographs are also being used for interpretation of geology, classification of soil, crops, etc. The art, science, and technology of obtaining reliable information about physical objects and the environment through process of recording, measuring, and interpreting photographic images and patterns of recorded radial electromagnetic energy and phenomena. Originally, photogrammetry was considered as the science of analysis only photographs. Now let's discuss about advantages and disadvantages. Some advantages of photogrammetry over conventional surveying and mapping methods are: it provides a permanent photographic record of conditions that exist at the time of aerial photographs are taken. Since this records has metric characteristics, it is not only a pictorial record but also an accurate measurable records. If information has to be resurveyed or re-evaluated, it is not necessary to perform expensive fieldwork as we are available with the photographs. By using these photographs or measuring this photograph again, we can form new maps or new survey. So the missing information such as inadequate offsets or cross sections can be remedied easily. It can provide a large map area, so alternate line studies can be made with the same data source can be performed more efficiently and economically than other conventional methods. Then also it provides a broad view of project area, identifying both topographic and cultural features. It can be used in locations that are difficult, unsafe, or impossible to access. Photogrammetry is an ideal survey method for toxic areas where fieldwork may compromise the safety of survey queue. So this type of methods, photography, are generally useful where we cannot physically be present and which can be harmful situations for the survey crew. An extremely important advantage of photogrammetry is that road survey can be done without closing lanes or the disturbing of traffic. For example, we are selecting a route for metro line or any construction of new bridge. So in these situations, we don't need to close the lanes of survey or the distribution of the traffic because it can be done by using the aerial photographs. Then intervisibility between points and unnecessary surveys to extend control to a remote area of a project are not required. The coordinates of every point in the mapping area can be determined with no extra efforts or cost. And the last point is the aerial photographs can be used to convey or describe information to the public, state, and federal agencies and other divisions within the Department of Transportation. So it is very useful information. These are the advantages. Let us talk about some disadvantages. The weather conditions like wind, cloud, etc. affect the aerial photography process and the quality of the images. Then seasonal conditions affect the aerial photography. That is, snow cover will obliterate the targets and give a false ground information or the impression. Therefore, there is only a short time, normally November through March, that is ideal for general purpose aerial photography. So we cannot do the photography all over the year. From November to March, this is the ideal conditions where we can do the aerial photography. Then hidden grounds caused by man-made projects or objects such as an overpass. For example, we are talking about the airports. We have the airport of 3 4 floors, so we cannot find out the roads going through it. Or for example, we can take, we have some elevated corridors. So because of such objects, the aerial photography cannot pass through it or overpass the proof and cannot be mapped with photogrammetry. So the hidden ground problem can be caused by tree or dense vegetation also. Then by the information hidden for the camera must be mapped with other surveying methods. So we can use ground methods. The accuracy of the mapping contours and cross section depends on flight height and the accuracy of the field survey. Now let us discuss about the classification of photogrammetry. Is divided into different categories according to the types of photographs or sensing system used or the manner of their use as given below. So first is on the basis of orientation of camera axis. This is first one is terrestrial or ground photography. When the photographs are obtained from the ground station with camera axis horizontal or nearly horizontal, that is nothing but your ground photography. Then next comes aerial photography, in which if the photographs are obtained from an airborne vehicle, aeroplane, helicopters, any airborne vehicle, or recently we are using drones, the photographs are called vertical if the camera axis is truly vertical or if the tilt of camera axis is less than 30. If the tilt is more than that, the photographs are called oblique photography. The next point is on the basis of sensor systems. On the basis of sensor system, we divide the photographing following systems. First is radar grammetry, that is radar sensor. Then we have X-ray photogrammetry, that is your X-ray sensors. Then hologrammetry. Then scene photogrammetry, that is motion pictures. Then we have infrared or color photogrammetry, that is your infrared or color photographs. So it depends upon the sensors we are using. Then next come on the basis of principles of recreating geometry. When the single photographs are used with the stereoscopic effort, if any, it is called as monoscopic photogrammetry. And if two overlapping photographs are used to generate three-dimensional view to create relief model, it is known as stereo photogrammetry. It is the most popular and widely used form of photogrammetry, which is your stereo photogrammetry. Now let us discuss about some applications of photogrammetry. What are the applications? So photogrammetry has been used in several areas, and the following descriptions given an overview of various applications areas of photogrammetry. The first is geology. Structural geology, investigation of water resources, then analysis of thermal patterns on Earth's surface, geomorphology studies including investigation of soil features. So aerial photography is also useful in geography, or you can say geology. By using this, we can find out stratigraphic studies, then general geologic applications, study of luminescent phenomena, then recording and analysis of catastrophic events, earthquake, floods, and eruption. Many times we have seen in news also or on the net also whenever any natural disaster happens. So we have seen the air graphical photography, that is your aerial photography or the videos that is care from the height without being in physical contact with the objects. Then second comes the forestry. The timber investigation or cover maps are made by using this aerial photography. Then we have agriculture, the soil type we can find out, soil conversation, then crop planting, crop disease, crop area we can find out, design and construction. So data needed for the site and route studies specifically for alternative scheme for photogrammetry used in design and construction of dams, bridges, transmission lines. So the existing structure, we don't go for survey again and again because it is a huge area. So except that we go for aerial photography, and by using these photographic maps we can find out the routes required and the necessary data required. Then we also use for planning of cities and highways, the new highways locations or the metro lines as we have discussed already, the detailed design of construction contracts, planning of civic improvements, etc. Then cadastral problems such as determination of land lines for assessment of tax. Large scale cadastral maps are prepared for reappropriation of land. So these are some applications of your aerial photography. Then environmental studies. In environmental studies, land use studies, we can use aerial photography. Then also for the urban area mapping. Generally in urban areas, it is very densely populated so that we can go for ground map studies. So in this situation, we can go for aerial mapping by using area photographs. Then exploration to identify and zero down to areas of various exploratory jobs such as oil or mining exploration. Then in military intelligence, many times we have seen we use aerial photographs for military operations. Then comes medicine and surgery. In medicine and surgery also we use such as for x-ray photogrammetry. Then we use examination of fractures and grooves, etc. Then for mountainous and hilly areas can be surveyed easily where the ground survey is not appropriate or not accurate because of rough ground or dangerous areas. These are some miscellaneous applications of aerial photography. Now we'll see what is the classification of photographs, on what basis the photographs are classified. So these are classified on the basis of alignment of optical axis. So there are basically three drives that can be vertical, tilted or oblique. So let us first discuss about vertical. If optical axis of the camera is held in a vertical or nearly vertical position, that is its vertical alignment. If an unintentional and unavoidable inclination of the optical axis from vertical produces a tilted photograph, and then becomes the oblique, that is the photograph taken with the optical axis intentionally inclined to the vertical. So in this case there are different types of oblique photos. So first come is high oblique. Oblique which contains the apparent horizon of the earth, that is what high oblique. And second is low oblique. Now what is low oblique? Low oblique means apparent horizon does not appear, and there is one more point, that is convergent. One more type of oblique, that is convergent. A pair of low obliques taken in sequence along a flight line in such a manner that both photographs cover essentially the same area with their axis tilted at a fixed inclination from the vertical in opposite direction in the direction of flight line, so that the forward exposure of the first station from a stereo pair with the backward exposure of the next station. Then come on the basis of the scales. So photographs are divided like small scale, medium scale and large scale. If the scale is between 1 is to 30,000 to 1 is to 250,000, and it is generally used for rigorous mapping of undeveloped terrain and recognition of vast areas, that is known as small scales. So in small scale we can cover the huge area. Medium scale is like 1 is to 5,000 to 1 is to 30,000, and it is used for recognition, preliminary survey and intelligence purpose. And last comes large scale, where the scale is between 1 is to 1000 to 1 is to 500, and it is used for engineering survey and exploration of mines. And the last type of photographs are on the basis of angle of coverage. The angle of coverage is defined as the angle, the diagonal of the negative format subtended at the real node of the lens of the apex angle of the cone of rays passing through the front nodal point of the lens. Now we'll see some important terms useful in the aerial photography. First is vertical photograph. A photograph taken with the optical axis coinciding with direction of gravity. Then come tilt or nearly vertical. That is photograph taken with optical axis unintentionally tilted from vertical by a small amount, usually less than 3 degrees. Next term comes is focal length. Now, focal length, what is focal length? It is distance from front nodal point to the plane of the photograph. That is your focal length. Next is exposure station. The position of frontal nodal point at the instant of exposure, that is known as exposure station. Next is flying height. Elevation of exposure station above sea level or above selected datum. Principal point. The point where the perpendicular drop from the front nodal point meets or strike the plane of photography. Next is principal line. What is principal line? The stress of the principal plane upon the photograph. Also, the line on the photograph which passes through the principal point and the nadir point. Tilt, the angle formed between the optical axis of the camera and the plumb line. Then come isocenter, the point where the bisector of angle of tilt meets the plane of photograph. And then ground nadir, the point on the ground that is vertically beneath the perspective center of the camera lens. This have we also seen in field surveying. Then nadir point or photographic nadir, the point on the photograph which correspond to the ground nadir, the point at which a vertical line plumb from the perspective center to the ground intersect the photograph. Then next come the photograph perpendicular. The perpendicular from the interior perspective center to the plane of the photograph. Then we have photograph center. The point on the photograph that is located at the intersection of the fiducial axis. That is nothing but the photograph center is also called the center of collimination. Next term is scale. The ratio of a distance on a photograph or map to its corresponding distance on the ground. Although photography scale varies from point to point, it is usually taken as f upon h dash, where f is what? Focal length, and h dash is height of camera above mean ground elevation. And scale is generally expressed as a ratio or a fraction or an equivalence. So it can be, there are three types in which we can express the scale. Then next point and the important term is relief displacement. If a ground object is below or above the elevation of the ground nadir, its image will be displayed radially inward with respect to the nadir point. Relief displacement may be measured accurately from the photography center if two conditions are met. That is, the photography is truly vertical and the camera is in the perfect adjustment. The last term, that is overlap. The amount by which one photograph covers the same area as covered by another. The overlap between aerial photograph is the same flight line is called end-lap, and the overlap between photographs in adjacent parallel flight lines is called a side lap. Now let us see the scale of vertical photography or the scale of photography. Due to perspective geometry of photographs, the scale of photograph varies as a function of focal length, flying height, and a reduced level of terrain over a certain reference datum. In the figure given below, for a photographic, as you can see in this figure, L is known as exposure station, F is focal length, H is flying height above datum. As you can see, there is a datum line in the bottom of the figure, so H is total height. Small h is height of ground point A above datum. There are 2 points A and B, as you can see. Point A is image as a in the photograph. From the construction and using similar triangles L small o a and L o a, we can write the relationships and find out the height, and also at the same out we can find out the distance between 2 points. So as you can see, from top point, that is your L, from L we can determine the n number of formulas from which we can find out the height and the distance between the points, or we can find out the area enclosed by different points. Next slide, we have the determination of scale of photograph. The scale of photograph can be determined by various methods, such as by knowing full length and altimeter reading. The datum scale can be found. Any scale can be determined if having can be obtained from topographic map, then by comparing length of the line on a photo with the corresponding ground length to arrive at fairly representative scale of either photograph. Get several lines in different area, and the average of various scales can be adopted. In this video we have discussed about the aerial photography, types of photogrammetry, types of photograph, the scale use, and the important terms used in aerial photography. Thank you.